What's up, everybody? A Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Nights with another episode on Stationeers. When we left off in the last episode, I had built this fancy schmancy cooling and atmospheric setup for the for the hydroponics for planting and growing crops. Now, it worked, sort of, except for the cooling part, which apparently I did not realize I had kind of wired incorrectly. Which actually, now that I'm looking at it, I think I still have the piping set up incorrectly. So, what I didn't realize was that the coolers are not actually really designed like vents to pull air out into the pipe. And because when I heard cooling loop, which was what somebody had told me in the comments, I was assuming it pulled hot air in, you got the radiators up here that cooled it off, released the heat, and then it came out the vent. Not really how it works. So apparently the way that you're actually supposed to do it, again, I'm hoping I got this part right, is you're supposed to have gas inside the vent, or the pipe, that is essentially a catalyst for heat. So you're pulling the heat from the gas in this room, it's going into the heat in, or I mean, it's going into the gas in this pipe, and then the radiators are releasing the heat and allowing the pipe to stay filled with gas, is the part I didn't realize, is you're basically using gas as a catalyst or a conductor for heat, as far as I understand it. I could still be totally wrong. It wouldn't surprise me. So I tested this out. It does kind of work. I'm still a little bit on the, like, when you get over in this area and stuff like that, away from the gas sensor, it's still slightly increasing, little at a time, and I'm not sure if that means I need more radiators or if I need another cooler. I'm not really sure where the bottleneck is of, like, does the cooler pull out more heat faster, or does it need to be able to dissipate the heat faster? I'm not really sure where the bottleneck lies, because again, I'm still kind of getting used to the new way of thinking of this stuff, of it not working the way I thought. So I think these two pipes up here were old connections, maybe? We're going to go out and have a look-see. Also, one thing I wanted to bring up, I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think you guys will notice any real difference in my videos, but I had a driver issue with my graphics card for some reason, that it was the latest and greatest from NVIDIA, and it seems to be jacking with DisplayPort-based monitors. So when I booted up my system, my DisplayPort did not work. I had no signal on my monitor, which kind of freaked me out at first, and then I checked with an HDMI, plugged it into my TV, and then it worked. And so I was like, okay, well, that's weird. So I tried different things. I tried to do system restore points and stuff, which is just lovely when the restore point says it can't restore it. Kind of makes you wonder what the point of restore points are. And my latest backup on my hard drive of, like, imaging all of my disks was actually like a week or two ago, so it was a little too far back for just a driver issue. So I didn't have time to play around and reinstall new drivers and things, and HDMI worked, so I just switched my monitor over to HDMI, but I lost the 144 hertz refresh rate that the DisplayPort let me do. So I don't think you guys should see any difference. I notice a little bit of a difference because I'm used to the refresh rate, but once it gets encoded and compressed and everything when I render the video, I don't know that that's still visible for you guys. So probably don't notice anything. If you do, just let me know, and know that that's why, is because I was having driver issues. So anyways, let me grab my Atmo thing here. You can tell, actually this is almost empty. This isn't entirely volatiles or pollutants, I think. I was reading online that pollutants was the best way to cool it. You can see that this is like negative 106 degrees. So I had been hearing, you know what, this is probably because it's connected to this somehow, that it's probably doing something with that. I don't know. But if we check the pipe, we'll see that it's a little bit, probably, oh, you know what it is? It was left over from the pipe. because this was a passive vent, so I never cleared the pipe out. So there's a little bit of 9 moles of CO2 and 0.5 of H2O, stuff like that. So it's got a little bit of leftovers from when I had this hooked up as a vent. But it's pretty much mostly pollutants, not volatiles. I'm not sure what the proper like pressure and all that kind of stuff is. I don't know if this decreases over time. It looks like it's decreasing over time, which is a little odd. Actually, no, I take that back. Its pressure is going down because the temperature is getting colder. Haha, see, I am getting more scientifically aware. So it's not actually changing in that. I left... Okay, Superman jump. That was weird. So I left this open because as far as I'm aware, it's kind of a little silly for a game that takes itself so realistically in terms of the science, but the pipe is sealed, essentially. From what I'm aware, as long as you don't put like a vent or something, the pipe will stay pressurized. So I left it that way in case we needed more radiators, that I could just add another row and then you could loop it and add another row. Like I said, let me know in the comments. I'm still not finding a clear-cut answer on what is the way to increase cooling with this setup. Do you need more radiators or do you need more coolers? I'm not really sure which is more important. Like if you had 90 radiators, would one wall cooler be plenty? Or at a certain point, do you need more coolers to keep up with the radiators? You know, that part I'm just not sure about. So, but we have a pipe here connecting to here so we can fill up the pipe system with more pressure with the volatiles. And then I did recolor this and configure this a little bit differently over here. So I wanted to show this. So I put a pressure regulator here, but I put the valve back here. And I also put a valve up here and the pressure regulator up here for the furnace. And essentially, in case it wasn't already obvious, what this lets me do is I can regulate where it goes. So if I want to fill up a canister for, you know, propulsion or for the hydroponics, whatever, I can turn this on, open this valve, and then when I open this valve, all of it goes right here. And then I can switch this off, but I could leave this on and then switch this back on and it would go all the way over here. So it's kind of just a junction system, essentially, and this is basically just a master flow switch, essentially. And I recolored it because it was getting a little confusing to figure out which was which. Now, as for the hydroponics, this part works. Like I said, it does heat up a little bit over time. Like it gets a little bit more than the system can keep up with. The bigger problem, let me see, I don't remember if I saved this after, no, I didn't do my mining run yet. So fun story, I did a mining run, and I got more volatiles and oxides and all that stuff, which I might actually have to do again, so I might not go back in yet. And I have this system set up fairly well, that you can just throw stuff in here and it will circulate everything into the filtration system and then pump out CO2. So I thought to myself, when I dump volatiles and stuff and oxides in here, it'll just fill up the atmosphere, it'll trigger the system, it won't be 80% CO2, and it'll suck everything out. It was a brilliant plan. Until I realized I failed to think about how those gases mix together in a combustible, non-vacuum environment. Again, refer back to, I like science, I'm not good at it. I've always been fascinated by science, but some people would probably think some of my ideas are silly because I don't know how science works in some aspects. And I never really took the time to do the research. So essentially, for all of those of you out there that are familiar with gas mixtures and atmospherics, the entire base lit on fire, and the room jumped to like 7,000 degrees Celsius or something, and I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. So essentially what I got to do is I got to go get more stuff, and then I guess I'll bring it into this room instead of this one. And, you know, vent it that way. I'm still not really clear on what the proper way to do that is, to be honest. Like, if everything blows up once you're in a pressurized environment, then does everybody just have to have a room where you dump oxides into a vacuum room that vents? Like, I'm really not quite sure how it how you're supposed to properly do it. I've been doing it, but apparently I've been doing it in a way that just happened not to blow up, but it wasn't really scientifically correct. So I'm going to go get some more stuff if I can find it out here in the dark. And yeah, we'll be back and we'll try not to blow ourselves out. Alrighty, so I did a mining run and I actually got more, of the, like, iron and stuff than I expected to. I was looking for oxides and volatiles and things. I found more oxides than anything else, obviously. But like I said, now this is an example. I did add another vent here, or cooler, because I just want to see if this balances out. And there's two things that I wanted to show here. One is that the only issue I was really running into and why I went and got more oxides, so the two issues I have facing at the moment is the cooling system, to keep it cool. Heating we haven't really had a problem with, because once you start putting plants in, then the heating thing ends up being fine. But the cooling system we have a bit of an issue, as well as... Okay, I have the water turned off on the... I was going to say I don't know if I want to pipe every bit of water into here. This does seem like enough, and I don't know if the plants actually use it or not. They might. But the bigger two things is the cooling system and running out of CO2, because I found that as the system drains and pumps back in, the plants are giving off using CO2, giving off oxygen, which is great for me, but nothing's giving off CO2. And I don't think I am producing enough in my waste tank type thing to compensate. So I wanted to get more oxides and things, and volatiles too, to get just more gases, but I don't think there's anything in them that I actually need. I don't really know why the temperature is coming up on its own. That's interesting. I also might make some adjustments to the setting on the coolers for the logic and turn the temperature down a little bit, so that they kick on a little more often. But for now, I do have a backup save here, so I'm not all that particularly concerned if this doesn't go right. But we're going to go ahead and plant these, and you'll see it says no sunlight, which is exactly what we're looking for, because that means that everything else is fine, it's just waiting for daylight. Corn also has seemed particularly problematic. What's going on here? And this, I don't know why this happens either. Like, you can see it says nothing. Like, corn has no sunlight. But why the bar comes up and it starts degrading over here versus over here, I don't know. Unless corn has a different kill temperature. But it doesn't say it's withering. It just starts kind of decaying for some reason. And then this one doesn't do it, but that one does. I've had one almost every time that starts decaying, and I really don't know why. It's happened to me every time I've done this so far, unless it's water maybe. That's something I never checked. Hold on. Let's find out. So on these we've got about 2 kilomoles and about 901 kPa at 2 degrees Celsius. So this is all the same over here, so I don't know why this one started to die for a second. I'm also not sure if I should put some kind of radiator on the... Okay. Oh, the coolers came on. Okay. So you can see that it's still kind of like 32.1, and it's still kind of... Maybe it's actually... Maybe 2 is enough. Maybe 2... vent units is enough to keep the... Because that's the thing I've been trying to combat, is the amount of heat the plants are producing is too high for this to keep up with. So maybe with 6 radiators and 2 coolers, it can pump the heat out faster. So that might actually work. We're still... Obviously, it's cold right here. Now it just sucked all the air out, but... We're at 32.3... And... So it's floating around 32.3 over here when that one over there kicks on and cools off. So I might have just fixed the cooling part. The temperature may be fine, and I might just turn down the temperature that it kicks on at, possibly. Because I think this is actually holding. It wasn't holding before, it kept climbing little at a time. Now these aren't actually growing right now, so we'll have to see. The other thing I want to do though, I'm not going to use this room because it blew up on me last time. Now I did have volatiles in the mix, and possibly oxides won't do this, or oxite. Maybe the oxide won't do it. I don't know. We're gonna risk it. So it is melting. Now I don't know if ice will give me carbon dioxide. It says oxide. I'm wondering if I need a volatile for carbon dioxide. Because I mean, ice should be H2O, really. It should just be water. So water and oxygen. Let me actually check. Maybe it'll... Is my CO2 increasing? We're at 2 moles. Let's grab you and throw that down. So I'm not seeing any increase. I'm seeing oxygen. I'm not seeing... Actually, I'm kind of surprised. It's mostly oxygen. There's not as much water as I was thinking there would be in the ice part. But I'm not seeing any carbon dioxide, though, and that's kind of what I need for the plants. I really need more carbon dioxide, so I don't know if that's just in volatiles. I thought I might be able to find it in oxides, but it's not looking that way. It's looking more like it's mostly oxygen and water. And with a little bit of nitrogen mixed in there. Tell me I don't have this vent on. I actually did that. I did my run and everything, and then when I went and did this, I was like, okay, let's go plant stuff, and I left this vent on even though I closed the door, and it was just venting all of my stuff, and I was like, oh no, that's not what I wanted you to do. So we're still at 2 moles of CO2, so I'm not getting CO2 correctly. I mean, it makes sense. I said I was bad at science, but I do understand that, you know, water doesn't have carbon dioxide in it. That's something we give out when we breathe and stuff like that, and plants breathe in, or however that works. I don't know that they really... I guess they breathe. I don't know. So yeah, I think the extra cooling thing and changing it to where it doesn't vent back into the room and just has radiators might have fixed the cooling problem. The problem at this point is going to be getting a source for CO2. I might just need to go grab... I might just need more grab some more volatiles somewhere and see if that would give me what I need. Oh, I just realized we're up to 91 kPa in here. That actually helped out quite a bit with the whole pressurization thingy. That's probably going to be my next project. Once we get the... oh, sun's coming up. Let's actually keep an eye on this for a second. Once I actually get my hydroponics set up correctly, and we're able to produce food and stuff, and then it's, you know, we need more CO2 and things. So the sun's coming up and our temps are holding. So that's pretty good. I think this is what's killing it. And now it's coming back, but I think that's what's killing this plant right here, is when this vents the room. It's pulling everything out of this square. So I think I need to move this somewhere, maybe. Unless that's just going to be okay. Oh, and this came back too. Cool. Alright, so our pressure... But see, you can tell our pressure is dwindling. And it's because little at a time, every time it vents the room, we're getting less CO2 back because I don't have as much in the tank. It doesn't look like it's actually using the water, though. It's like the water's just in the line. It's not, like, using it up. So that's kind of interesting. CO2, we're at 36 moles. 80%. Yeah, see, and then every time it comes back, we're losing like a kPa. It's going to, you know, now we're at 13 kPa and 35 moles of CO2. So the balance of ratios is there. We're getting a balance, and we're seeing that the plants are growing and stuff, but they're using more... Huh? What are you talking about? Internal? Why am I losing... Why am I losing internal suit pressure? Oh, I'm out of air. Ha! I'm out of air. Well, that'll do it. I didn't really mean to do that. That wasted a lot of stuff, but I'm kind of in a rush. Where's my portable tank? How do I put this in here? I forget. Haven't done this in a minute. Okay.
Oxygen critical.
Yeah, so that's a thing. Alright, what we're gonna do here is I am going to... Is the switch for filling? I can't remember. That's fill. So, wait. Why is... I thought I put it... Whew, wow, sorry about that. Something about that made me have to cough really bad. So I'm actually going to vent this room so that we get more of the gases back into... Actually, let me do this real quick too. While we're right here...
Waste tank critical.
Alright, and then we'll vent this. And that'll get pulled in there. So basically, in case anyone doesn't already know, I'm venting my room in there because it's going to go back through the filtration system and it'll essentially add more CO2 back into our stores, and then it can pump it back out into here. Though it's not that much. It's only, like we said, it's only a couple moles. So we really actually need more pressure here. Temperature-wise, I'm glad to see the temperature's actually gone way down. Like, now we're in the 31s and stuff like that. So I think this cooling system will be enough for this amount of plants. If I add more plants, I'll probably need more coolers or radiators or something. I'm not really sure which one does what, as far as which is more important for cooling off more quickly and compensating for... It seems like the coolers do more than the radiators, but that's just what I'm seeing so far, because when I had one and this many radiators, it couldn't keep up with these plants. But when I added two, it's actually negating the plants. So I'm kind of thinking that that'll be how that works. The one thing I found in my last test... Do I still have a corn? I do have one corn, so as long as I keep that, I'll be able to reproduce more corn when I get it more stabilized and set up. But the wheat should produce before I run out of CO2 for the room, and it can't produce anymore. So we shouldn't actually lose anything but maybe corn, because corn seems to take a lot longer to grow in just from what I've seen in my limited testing. But we need to fix the CO2 problem. I don't have enough power apparently either, but I don't have enough CO2 in particular. So let's vent this back into there. And technically speaking, it would operate more efficiently with this door closed than with it open, because this is another square that the atmosphere has to fill up. So as we're running low, it's probably best to keep this door closed until, you know, everything gets kind of squared away. But yeah, so I'm really looking for a source of CO2 now at this point. That's kind of the bigger issue at the moment of what I need to make this thing work. I think we've got the temperature and atmospheric fill stuff squared away. I think it's mostly just getting enough gas that we can sustain all the plants is, I think, going to be the problem. So that's on my agenda. Real quick, I kind of wanted to go over a couple of things. So on the agenda at the moment is to do that. I don't remember how I did this. There's a way that you can do, that's the sequence. There's a way you can do that and it doesn't close the menu, but when you go to attach a belt, put it back on, something like that, it closes this window. So if I do this and then I go like this, it closes the suit window for some reason. Yeah, so we need to find out how to, or I need to find out, you guys can let me know, but I need to get more CO2 from somewhere other than just my suit, because I'm not producing enough as a human being to fill that room up dense enough for the plants to grow properly and sustain it. So I'd like to find a way to do a loop, like if there's a plant that gives off CO2 or something. I don't think there is, but, you know, again, I'm not a science person, so there may be a particular kind that uses oxygen and gives off CO2. Might just be going and mining volatiles. I don't know. Might be furnace stuff. So that's what I meant. Is just kind of let me know what you guys have found about what the best way to get CO2 is, because I need more of it. Water we seem to be okay on. It's not really consuming the water, but the CO2 gas is the one thing we're depleting. Like, we're getting oxygen back from this system, but we're not getting, we're not really getting CO2 from anything. So that's one thing. The other is I'd like to mirror. I would like to set up a logic system like I have for the hydroponic room, but I'd like to actually set this up for my main room. Ooh, we're getting pretty low in here. Okay, so the wheat's done, so we can harvest this. I'm going to go ahead and do that so we're not consuming more gas than we need. And we did get a return on that, which is great. So we had 5, we got 10. This still hasn't grown yet, so I'm kind of thinking you can tell we're at 10 kPa in the room. I think the corn's going to die before we actually get it to grow. Unless I can find more CO2 until between now and then. But yeah, like I said, I don't know of what else to...
Low pressure.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure this is going to die, but I wanted to make sure we at least caught the wheat first, because then we at least get a return back on the wheat. Let's see. I might go ahead and put that in here and close that, since that seemed to be okay. What else? Oh, there is that solar panel that I never put up, isn't there? What did I do with that? Didn't I make one? I thought I made a solar panel and then put it somewhere. Auto lathe. No? I guess I must have done that on a save and then reset it. Door, generator, pipe bender. Yeah, I don't actually have a solar panel. I thought I made more and put a third row up there, but I guess I didn't. So, yeah, it looks like we're completely vented at this point, so we'll turn that off. Let's go ahead and turn that back on. And we'll fill the room back up. Ooh, it's chilly in here. So yeah, I'd really like to set up a logic circuit, maybe over on this wall, like over this way. Something out of the way so I can go maybe this way with the rest of the base, or down or something. But I'd like to set up a heating system and a proper vent system that works kind of like this, where it's actually got a gas sensor, it's detecting temperature for wall coolers and all that kind of stuff, and it's detecting, you know, pressure, and turns it on when it needs and turns it off when it doesn't. We already had some of that set up over here for the gas mixer, of if it needs, if I flip this switch, then mix the gas and all that kind of stuff. But we could just as easily turn it on with, like, instead of doing this switch, we could just as easily set it to a gas sensor reading kind of thing. So we're almost partially there. We already kind of have some of it set up. We have a lot more O2 and N2 apparently, since we lit those, since we used those oxides or whatnot. So yeah, let's double check this one last time. Pretty sure the corn's gonna be dead by now, I would imagine. Make sure that's good and vented. We're at 8 kPa. Oh, and it has no sunlight. Okay, so that's what I was meaning about it'll probably die, because by the time the sun comes back around, the pressure will be too low, I imagine. So you can see we went from like 15 to 8, because there's no, it's like a diminishing return. There's nothing filling the CO2 back up. And I just released my tank a minute ago, and it's really not that full yet. So I'm not really sure where to get that. That's the bottleneck at this point. We fixed the cooling system. Now it's just the CO2 kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm dealing with at this point. We have a different setup here, and this works much better. You can see that our cooling is still under 32, which it started at. There it goes. So this one's because the thing just vented, but it probably won't fill back up properly. So yeah, we were climbing, last episode, we were climbing up past 32 and stuff. So this is actually working. The 2 vents, I mean the 2 coolers and the 6 radiators seems to be adequate at the moment for 9 plants to keep it properly cooled. We don't really even need the heat one at the moment, because once you start growing plants, they heat everything up. This is the big bottleneck at this point, is CO2 deprivation kind of thing. But so anyways, let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. I think we're out of time for this episode. We're going to wrap things up here. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you all next time. Peace.